the planes we flew, good things we've been through.
Hello everyone, my name is Jordan and welcome back to another episode of the Bukkit coding series. Today Hello everyone, my name is Jordan and welcome back to another episode of the Bukkit coding series. Today we're going to be revisiting our TPermissions plugin. I know I said I was going to do this some other time, but I decided, you know what, let's go ahead and do this now because I had a friend who wanted to add in SQL or SQL support to the plugin, and he said, yeah, you should probably add groups before I do anything. Well, you know, I kind of said that, but it's a long story. But basically, we're going to be adding groups in today. I have absolutely no idea how I'm going to do this, so we're just going to go ahead and roll with it. I have some basic idea of how I want to do it, so do not worry. I do have some outline, I guess you could say. So let's go ahead and actually close all this. And I also wanted to add into the TPermission thing here because, you know, it's kind of just blank right now, so I want to make it an actual like command that you can modify permissions with, and you know that whole thing. So what we're going to do now is we are going to go ahead and first of all, we're going to go ahead and go into permissions manager here. And we are going to say, we're going to make some just blank empty methods here. We're going to say public void set group player. And we will not be adding multi-group support just yet. We may do that in like a future episode. And this time I promise it will be in a far future episode if we end up doing that. So we're going to have a set group. We're going to have a get group player. And then actually we'll need to return a string. For now we're just going to return null string and then return null. To do define. And then to do set. And then we're going to have a public, what would this be? This would be a public list. It'd be a string list. Not a string list, but a string list. Get group permissions, and then string group. And then we're just going to go ahead and return the same null value as we had before. I have to retype that out because of a IntelliJ bug that I need to really report. All right, so we have our set group, our get group, and our get group permissions methods here. In user settings, we are going to want to, well, for now we can actually not do anything there. Let's go ahead and do our set group method first. And what we're going to do is we're going to have a path, and I'll actually go ahead and make this in here. So how are we going to do this? Whoops, got to clear that. There we go. So in the file, let me actually, I'm not sure if, I don't have an example file, but it would be something like UID. So we're just going to make that UID 9000 or something like that, or just all this. That's the UID. We're going to go down 2 spaces forward, and then it's going to have permissions. That's going to be a list of permission 1 and maybe permission 2. We don't know. And what we're going to need to do here is and then they have their name. So name is just going to be like the player's name, something like that. And then we can go back in here and we're going to add this into it now. So we're going to have group. And group is going to be a name here. And then we're just going to set that as like owner or something like that for now. And then we're going to have a groups.yml file, which is where all the group stuff is going to be stored. It's going to have all their permissions and that kind of thing. And then what we're going to do is we're going to loop through all of the group's permissions and then call insert permission for this here. We're going to insert permission for that thing, and that's what this is going to do. So what we're going to do is we're going to inside of our inject method, where is it? That reload and refresh. No, it'd be just reload. And reload is what would do that here, and we're gonna add it all into here. And right here we're also going to this is gonna be our method for basic level permissions, and then we're gonna have a group method as well. Not method, but code section in here. I'm probably blabbling on a little bit too much about that, so we'll do that. I'll explain a little bit later. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and say file configuration fk equals user settings dot get settings dot get file permissions dot get dot get string would be get string player whoops player dot get unique ID dot to string. Oh, whoops, no, we don't need to actually do that. We just need the file. Now we're gonna do that. This is the basic part here. We're just gonna say string group. Then we're gonna say fk.set. We're going to say player.get unique ID dot to string plus and then a dot. We'll actually just set this as group. There we go. So we're gonna go there UID. So that would be this right here, and then we're gonna go down to group, and then we're gonna set the next part of group, which would be the owner section here, to whatever string we're given. And then we're also going to go ahead and save that file. Not file manager. User settings dot get settings dot save for that file configuration there. One last thing I actually wanted to do that could prevent possible memory leaks is adding a disable method in here. So public void disable, and then that would be file configuration map dot clear. We're just going to call disable in here on disable. We're going to say user settings dot get settings dot disable, and we're also going to make a disable method for our permissions manager as well, just so we can prevent any possible memory leaks from occurring. We're going to say public void disable, and we're just going to go ahead and get the any maps in here. We're going to say permissions data map dot clear. And if we ever wanted to clear anything else or remove any instances that we may have, that is exactly how we would do it. Of course, there are definitely many ways to do this, but I'm just going to go ahead and clear any data that we have. So now we can go ahead and we have our set group method there. This will be used in the TPermissions command. It can also be done manually via the file eventually once we get a working file set up. And then right here, so under get group, we're going to need to return something. So we need to go ahead and say file config. So we're going to get their file one more time. Not one more time, but another time. Get file for, get permissions. And then what we're going to do is we're going to, by default, we're going to set it to something. So when there is no group found, or when we're creating a file, so else if file name dot, oh, whoops, hold on. Never mind. We actually need to do it a little bit differently just to prevent issues here. Yeah, that's okay. We'll just do it like this. So we're going to say if fk.get player, or no, get string player.get unique ID dot to string plus dot group equals null. And we're just going to return no group like that. And then otherwise, or actually we don't even need an else there. We can just go ahead and return fk.get all this because it is not null. There we go. Our get group method is completely done. And now what we're going to do is we're going to access our groups file here, and we are going to do all that stuff and all that. Then we're going to need to do our command stuff, and the command stuff is just kind of basic. It's just a little annoying to do because command arguments can be pretty annoying sometimes, in my opinion, of course. So now what we need to do is we need to say, we're just going to go ahead and get a list here. List string permissions equals null is redundant. We can just go ahead and remove that. We're going to say file configuration fk equals user settings. I don't even know why it is user settings still. It's not really user settings. It's more like settings manager. We're going to get the file groups because we do not want so permissions X stores things in it stores basically everything in permissions. Then they have their config file. Of course we could do it this way, but if you're trying to look for groups and you're going in permissions, then it's going to be a little confusing. Of course, we could make a file for every single player, although that might get a little expensive on the machine, having to look through all that. But, whatever works for you, you can do your own investigation, of course. So now what we need to do is we need to go ahead and say permissions equals fk Well, actually, first of all, we need to say if fk.get string group equals null, then we're going to return null. Well, actually, first of all, we can kind of just remove this anyways, because that'll be redundant. And we'll have to do some checks in the command when we do get group permissions and then in other places just to see if they have any permissions. Of course, they're probably going to end up having some permissions. It's just always safe to check. So all we have to do really is we don't even have to make this list because we're not using it anywhere. And we can just say return fk.getString list group plus dot permissions. There we go. So we can actually remove this probably because we don't need it anymore. So we have our three methods. And now what we can do is we can go ahead and put this right here in curly braces or brackets or whatever they are. We can go ahead and say list string permissions. How? Well, that's a big surprise there. We're gonna actually go ahead and put labels up here too. By doing these two stars, it'll make it green and fancy. I'm gonna say user specific permissions. I probably spelled specific wrong, right? No, I did it right. I did it right. Perfect. And then we can go ahead and say group permissions. There we go. So we have it separated and we have it labeled, so we do know what each thing does. We're going to go ahead and say if get group player equals null. So if they so actually we need to say if it is null or if it is no group. So if they do not have a group, we're going to return. And there we go. I think that's good for that part. Now what we're going to do is we are going to say just all this stuff here. And that's basically all their user settings and all that. Okay, that should work. All right. So let's go ahead and loop through their thing, or their permissions. So in x equals 0, x2 permissions dot size. Of course, we need to set permissions. Just forgot about that. We're going to say insert permission. Give me a second. What does that say? Yes, I understand it's not initialized. Okay. Insert permission, boom. And it's going to not let me unread the thing, but that's okay. All right, so insert permissions, permissions dot get x. Now we need to instantiate permissions. Permissions is going to equal get group permissions for get group player. If permissions dot, well, actually, we don't even need to check the size of it. Really what we need to do is we need to check if permissions still equals null, then return, because they don't have any permissions. And there we go. That should be about it for group. It does look a lot similar because we're not accessing the player's data at all. Because it was all set up for the first time up here if it doesn't equal anything. So what's the point in doing it down here? There is no point. So there we go. Let's go ahead and actually get into the command back end of this. And the second, but before, well, not before we do that. I want to do this first so we can just manage stuff really quick. We don't want this command center instance of player thing, mostly because we want to do some things with console. Now, what we're gonna do to check that the player has the highest possible permission, or if they're console, we're gonna check if they have a permission called star or an asterisk, whatever it is. So that would be this symbol right here. We're gonna check if the player or this, well, not the player, but the command center has that permission. And if they have that, we're going to continue. Otherwise, we're not going to let them function. We're just going to cancel out everything like normal. Now, the reason why this is the highest permission, I have no idea. But I think commands no. That's just how we're going to... That's basically our override permission node. I am pretty sure. Not exactly sure if that'll function properly for giving them all permissions. It's more like an op permission, basically. Checking if they have the star, then op them. And I need to look at how permissions X handles that star or that asterisk because I'm not too sure. But that's what we're going to check for. So instead of all this stuff here, we need to go ahead and we're just going to like, not highlight it, but remove it. I need to actually move around in my chair. Give me 1 second. All right, everyone. So now what we can do is we can say if command sender dot has permission star, and to make this even easier, if they don't have the permission star, we're going to return true. We're going to say command sender dot send message. You do not have the required permission to access /TPermissions. Boom. And even better than that, we can instead check if they don't have that permission and there are no args, and there are args, because if their args are if there are args, what we want to do is we want to check if they have permission. Of course, if they don't have any args and they are not op, we just want to give them info about the plugin. And if they are op and they also have no args, we want to send them a help menu and the version. So it's just like we don't want to give the normal people a version list, a command list, because there's really no point in giving a default permissioned user a list of all the commands, because it's a little bit weird to let them have access to that. Of course, it wouldn't damage anything. It's just like it doesn't make very much sense. So now we're going to check else if the command center does not have the permission star. Whoops, asterisk, my bad. And the args, and there are args, or no, and there's no args. Then we're just gonna go ahead and do our version printout. So we're gonna say this right here. We're gonna say TPermissions running version. We're gonna say TPermissions dot get instance dot get description dot get version plus created by plus TPermissions dot get instance dot get description again, and then dot get authors, my bad, dot toString. Of course, that'll look a little weird, so we can make a converter really quick in here. Public string convert, and then a list of a string list. Boom. And we're going to say string to return equals null. For in I equals 0, I to list dot size. I is less than list dot size, my bad. And then actually we can't set this to null, or else that's going to give us some issues. If to return equals. Actually, we don't even need to do that. To return equals to return plus list dot get I plus, and then a comma, and then a space. Return to return. So that's basically going to take our list and format it a lot nicer. We're going to go ahead and type our put in our convert method here, and there we go. That's going to send them their nice version printout. So now we've checked that they have permission. We've checked the arg stuff. Well, we haven't fully checked arg stuff yet, but I'll get into that in a second. Now what we need to do is we need to do all the operator based stuff and do all the administrator stuff. So what we're going to do now is we're going to make a is null method. So public boolean is null. We're going to say a string array args and an int index. We're going to try, and we're going to catch for an array index out of bounds exception e, return false. We're going to try, and what we're going to try is we're going to try args index and then return true. not a statement, string temp equals boom. All right, I was probably doing that like test. All right. So what this is doing is this is checking for an array index out of bounds exception with our args array and with something we want to find in it, and that's going to be useful for processing command arguments and making sure that they are not null and they do exist. It's just an easier way to do it than checking like what the length of the args list is, and it's less of a hassle in my opinion. So now what we're going to do is we're going to check if, well, not even if. We're just going to go ahead and send the person who executed this command a command printout. We're going to say, boom. We're going to give them a list of all of our things. So T. All right, everyone. Sorry for the inconvenience there. That's what happens when I forget to put on Do Not Disturb when I record stuff. But now what we're going to do is we are going to go ahead and make our command index list here. So TPermissions info player. Boom. And then I gotta read that message to make sure I don't make them ignored. Oh, that's cool. My Apple Watch is giving me messages saying that I got that. I absolutely love the Apple Watch, by the way. It's amazing. We're gonna go ahead and continue with this here. TPermissions / TPermissions, and we're gonna say like group set player group, and we're going to copy this and paste it down there. Group add, and then we're going to say like permission or something like that. And I think that's really all we have to add. Well, actually no, we need to add basic player permission adder things. Nice. That's a very nice way to add things. Add permission. Actually, we should just not even put permission in there. We're just going to say add player and then permission. And now what we can do is we can be done with that, I think. Oh, actually, we need to change this really quick. Boom. TPermission set player group. There we go. That makes it a little less complicated. And then there we go. So now what we can do is we can go ahead and check. So now we know for sure. Well, we don't actually know for sure. We need to check if args dot length equals 0. Boom, and then return true. So now we can basically guarantee. We can 100% guarantee without using that isNull method. That arg0 is a thing. It has to be. There has to be at least one argument for the code to all the way be able to execute down here. So we're gonna go ahead and type in if args0. So basically, if our subcommand equals ignore case. So we don't care about the casing here. If it equals info. So that means this person is trying to look up info about a specific player, and that means we're gonna have to provide offline player support. In that case, we're gonna have to do some deprecated things, unfortunately. Of course, you can change this to disallow that and make sure the player you're trying to look up is online, but just for convenience sake, we want to make sure that we're able to do it this way, or else it just might end up being a pain in the butt to handle later. So let's go ahead and do this. Actually, we need to say if is null args and then 1, because that's what we're trying to pull. We're just going to return true. We're also going to send them this here just so they have, actually we're going to send them what they tried to do. Okay, so now that we're for sure that the arguments we need are there, we're going to say player target equals bucket.getPlayer args 1. If target equals null, so if they're not online, basically. If they are not online, and then what we're gonna do is we're gonna result to offline players. So offline player, offline target equals bucket.get offline player, and this is the deprecated part, args 1. So we have our deprecated guy here. we're also going to put it in else there for usage in a second. So we have our target now. And this is going to be the same for both things. We actually can just go ahead and make a UID equals null to make this actually a lot simpler for updating. And boom. So UID equals that, and then otherwise UID equals target.get unique ID. And then we just got to pull permission, or not permission, but information out from that UUID in the file. So we're going to say list string permissions equals permissions manager dot get permissions manager dot get, what would it be? Well, no, actually we have to do it a different way. Well, no, let's go ahead and actually make a method to get the permissions of a player, of a UUID actually, because that'll make it a little easier. Public void, or public list string get permissions player. No, UUID, my bad. And we're gonna say if user settings.get file permissions dot get string UID dot toString equals null, and we're just gonna return null. Else we're gonna return user settings.get file permissions, all that jazz, get string UID dot toString plus dot permissions, I believe. What is it? No, wait, hold on, we're doing this a little bit wrong. Forgot about how we did all this. It needs to be data plus and then all this data dot boom plus, and we need to say get string list. That would be a string here, that would be a string list. Okay, there we go. So now we can go ahead and say equals permissions manager dot get permissions manager dot get permissions from that UID, and we're gonna say if permissions is null, we're gonna return true. We're going to say that player is not online or something like that. That player has never played before or has no data ready for checking. I don't know. Now we're just going to go ahead and say command sender.send message. We're going to send them the list of permissions in the fancy format. So we get to use our method one more time. Permissions equals convert permissions. And that's really all we want to do other than group. So we can go ahead and say command center send message TPermissions group plus permissions manager.get permissions manager.get group UID. I'll make a method really quick to do that. Public string get group for UID. Basically the same thing here. And instead of all this, we can go ahead and say UID.toString. UID.toString. Bam, bada boom, we have just completed our first subcommand out of 4. There we go. Else if, so now we're moving on. Else if args0 is add, so we're adding a permission. If is null, args1, or args2 is null. We're going to go ahead and tell them this, and then we're going to return true actually. So we're going to do the same thing as we did here. We're going to get the target as the first player, or as the first argument, my bad. And the permission we want to add to them is going to be args2. So string permission equals args2. Permissions manager.get permissions manager dot my bad, here we go. We need to make a, how do we add permissions actually? I think we had it up here. Oh. So okay. Let's go ahead and do this. Right. We can move back down. We have this here. We can go ahead and do that. Okay, so we need a list string permissions. Boom. And then right here, instead of this whole thing, we just want UUID. Apparently we just can put UUID without any of the other stuff. That's interesting. I didn't know I did that before. And we can't do this because we don't have their name. However, we do have their UUID. All right, and we can just go ahead and say permissions dot add permission. User settings dot get settings dot hold on. We already have the thing here, so we can say file configuration dot set data plus dot UUID plus dot permissions to be permissions, and then user settings dot get settings dot save for file configuration, and we can go ahead and send the succeed message. So that would be TPermissions added permission to plus args1. Boom. There we go. And then we actually want to go ahead and say if target does not equal null, permissions manager dot get permissions manager dot what would it be? It'd be probably refresh for target. Am I correct in saying that? Actually, it would be reload. Ripperoni. Okay, so we are now almost done. And this next one is actually not as bad by far. This is going to be the set the group. So if it equals ignore case set, there we go. You can go ahead and say this. Go ahead and say set player and then group. And now we can just go ahead and really copy all this stuff down from up here. And let's go ahead and make this a little better. Go ahead and copy all this down. And don't actually have to define UUID yet. Okay, get all this stuff, right? We don't actually need to get all this stuff here. So we don't need permissions, we don't need this. Well, actually, we don't even need any of this. It's just setting the group, so all we need to do is really just get the group and then set it to be group, because this is not going to be permission, this is going to be group. And then set group to boom for, and then that player, and then reload if they're online. Last one, which is adding permissions to a group. Yes, okay. I hope this one isn't that difficult. Shouldn't be. So if it equals, what would this be? Whoops. Would it be add? It'd be group add. Okay. So group. And then we can check this here. Group add permission. Okay. And then if is null args and then 1 or args and then 2. And let's go ahead and copy this. We are running a little short on time, so I should probably speed up my speed. Okay, did I ever make a, I'm sure I made a method in here. I did not. Okay, that is a shame. But we do have some convenience methods, so it's not that bad. We can say if, well, actually, first of all, string group equals args1, right? This would be 0, 1. It would be, we need to actually add another thing here. Group. That is a shame. I have failed. There we go. Okay, so this would be 0, 1, 2, it'd be 3. So we need to also check if args3 is null. And then we want to say string permission equals args2. 0, 1, 2, and 3. Okay, we are good there. So we now checked. We don't even need to care about this. This can be anything we want. Of course, if we want to add more subcommands to group, we need to definitely check what this is here. But other than that, we are kind of clear for this project. So we can say if permissions manager dot get, and then we're going to get the get group of get group permissions for group. If it is null, we're gonna say well, we're gonna just go ahead and set it here. So we're gonna say file configuration fk equals user settings dot get settings dot get file groups, and then boom, fk dot set what was our file pathing? It was just getting, hold on, let's see, get group permission. It was just the straight group name, no data or whatever. So we're gonna say set group plus dot permissions to be a new array list, and then now we need to save that. So user settings dot get settings dot save for fk, and finally we can go ahead and say list string, because we've now set permissions as something for sure. Permissions equals permissions manager dot get permissions manager dot get group permissions for that group. And actually we need to first of all check if that group even exists. So if permissions manager dot get permissions manager dot get group, whoops, we don't even have a method to check there. Oh, and I did realize we actually need to check, we need to make a command to create groups. I didn't think of that. But what we need to do is we need to make that last sub command and then quickly test this. Then I gotta head out for dinner. So let's go ahead and say permissions dot add permission, and boom, and then we want to say user. Well, actually, we can literally copy this, and instead of new array list, we can set permissions to permissions, and boop. All right. Boom, and then we should probably add some sort of confirmable method here, or not method, but message. Oh my gosh. Added permission to plus group, and then else if args0 dot equals ignore case group. Whoops. Okay, so that means we're gonna need to do something in here. We're gonna say if, okay, I need to say if is null 1. Say boom, and then boom, we're gonna do this. We're gonna say if args1 dot equals ignore case add, then we're gonna do all this stuff. Else if args1 dot equals ignore case create, and then we need to go ahead and do our checks here. If boom, boom, we can go ahead and send this here. So it won't really help them too much, but I mean, they can probably figure it out. Well, let's go ahead and let's help them out a little bit. Add permission group. And so now we're gonna check if it's create, We're just going to say if is null args and then 2, because we're going to need a group name. Return true. We do need to actually return true here. Return true. Boom. Group create. And then a name. String name equals args2. Okay, we are good with the numbering there. Now we can create that group. We're just going to go ahead and say, well, first of all, we're going to check this. Boom. So if that thing is null, or if what we're getting here is null, their permission stuff, we're just going to set it equal to that. And that's a great way of checking if we already have a group that is that thing. Of course, we should probably not check this exactly, but I mean, that is our way of checking right now. Probably won't work entirely, but I mean, it's good to have it there. We're going to say that group already exists. And then boom. And then we're going to say created group plus name plus exclamation point. We are now good to go. Oh my gosh. All right. Go ahead and build this, and we're going to go ahead and pop it on a test server. And, okay, we got all of our deprecation messages. All right, servers, random, BC. Okay. Plugins, and then app 25. Start. Okay. Now we can go ahead and try this out, and if it doesn't work, I will probably end up pausing the video and then finish this up tomorrow or something like that, because I have to go see a movie. Well, I don't really have to, but I want to. So let's go ahead and wait for this to connect up. All right, so let's go ahead and go on localhost. And now, as we log in, please join the. Are you kidding me? I seriously have that plugin on here? Yes, I do. Give me 1 second. I need to reload this guy here. Added permission. Okay, so it added all those because we have that set up. So now we can go ahead and say TPermissions. So I don't have the star permission. See, we don't have star. We need to say TPermissions. Boom. So we have star on this on console. We can say add. I did something wrong. 107. 107. Did I do checks up here? 107. Oh, I accidentally swapped these around. Simple mistake. Go ahead and swap those two. Probably should have realized that. Okay. Fill in Finder, copy, paste, boom, reload. This should now work. There we go. TPermissions add the Trollz. We're gonna say like we're gonna say star because we want star. There we go. So it just re-registered our thing. We can now we have all that all our runtime stuff. So we can go ahead and say group create test. That group already exists. Okay. Well, I don't think it does. TPermissions groups. Does it? No, it doesn't. So we're gonna create test. We're gonna say permissions. We're gonna say like boom. We're gonna say like essentials.workbench. So that'll give us permission to use a workbench if we're in that group. First of all, we're gonna check our info. I'm not in a group. Now we need to go ahead and say oh, I messed up on the list here. That's okay. We're gonna go ahead and say group. I don't know. Set the Trollz, and then we're gonna say test. Permissions info. I'm in. Okay. I did something wrong there. Set group to. That should have worked. I don't know why. Group test. Oh, I am in test. It's just not showing up properly. So what method is called to check my info? Okay. get group UID. Aha. Data. We need this part. We have to include that or else it will not work. Go ahead and do that. Okay. I see how it is. Alright, cool. 25, whoops. Try and drop that in there. Reload one more time. We're going to go ahead and pop our info command, and apparently it's my group is null. Group set Trollz test. Why is it showing up as null? My group is clearly test. We need the data thing here too. See, there's always that one little thing that will kill you. And in my case, it's this. Alright. Now you just need to wait for this thing to do that. Alright, boom. This is a very long episode. There we go. So now it says I'm in group test. However, I don't think I have any of those permissions, but that's okay. So we can go ahead and say group add test and then essentials.workbench. Do I have slash? So diop. So I don't have that. Slash craft. Do I have it? I do. Do I have slash GMC? I do. So that's probably a problem. No, I didn't die. TPermissions. I just got shot by a skeleton. That's nice. Okay, there's no remove argument yet. I'll have to add. You can add that in probably yourself, probably. I hope. Okay, let's go ahead and remove the star. Reload. Boom. Whoops. No title screen plus. Right, slash DMC. I still have access to that. Why do I have access to that? Right. Cleared permissions for this runtime. This still works. I'm not exactly sure. Don't have access to it. Okay, slash craft. I don't have access to it either. So I did something wrong. I'm going to go ahead and actually take a break until tomorrow morning. So I will be right back once I actually, well, not right back for me, but right back for you guys. Alright, everyone. So it's been about 12-ish hours or so around then. I can actually probably check in here. It's been about, give or take, 12 hours. Probably around more like 10. But yeah, 10 hours. I've had some time to think. And I've decided the best way to go about doing this is to put some debug messages in and see what code is getting triggered and what is not. So we're just going to go ahead and debug at level.severe for this part here. Group plus get group player has no permissions question mark, and then right here we're going to go ahead and make a injected method. We're going to say player plus player dot get name was of group was inject well what we could say was given the permission dot get x from their group. Okay, so now let's go ahead and reopen Minecraft and do all these things because I didn't properly set up. Alright, so let's go ahead and start our server. I'm going to start on Minecraft as well. We can go ahead and pull this up, and then I will pull out TPermissions here. And we can go ahead and see what happens when we try this. So, we're just going to wait for Minecraft to appear any moment now. While we're waiting, we can go ahead and pull these open. Okay, so I don't know why that's there. So I'm in group test, therefore I should have essentials.workbench. In theory. Okay, why is this not appearing? Minecraft, why you do this? Here, let's just kill Java. Oh, whoops, I just kind of killed my server too. That is quite awkward. Whoops, I guess. That's awkward. Let's just go ahead and give it a second here. There we go. We got our Minecraft window. We have our server window. And now we can go ahead and join our locally hosted server. Let's see what happens here. Okay, so it's not injecting group data on join. .reload, .refresh. Okay. So we need to debug in here. Okay. So user player is not a member of a group, question mark. So if this is getting triggered, we're going to have to see what's going on here. I'm gonna make it need to give permissions on reload because some people prefer to reload rather than restart. Okay, so not even this code is it's not even getting executed. There's a return here. It's injecting right here, so that's not really happening. Yeah, not too sure why, because there's no message that we can see. Well, we can do like starting group chat or starting group stuff for player. Whoops, I need to use that the keyboard. Starting group, injections for player dot get name. Need to change this to be player dot get name. Okay. Let us see what I have done wrong. Okay, I need to relog. I need to actually add that in for the next reload we do. Starting group injections for the Trollz. And then it just cuts off. And I did the wrong sign. You know, when things like this happen, you just really want to, like, cry a little bit. Let's go ahead and make that an info. And then we're just going to say, this is also going to be an info. You see, things like this make you just really want to cry because that caused a whole ton of stuff to happen. Why is there? Okay. Load. So it is reloading on enable. So that's weird. I'm not sure if I'm getting the permissions or if it's just like, I don't know. So that's why okay. So let me explain what was going on here. So we had all this stuff, right? And the reason why it was actually getting executed, it went all the way down to here. And the group we're in has permissions. Our group does not equal null or no group. The problem was right here. We set it as x is more. I believe x is more than permissions.size, and that is technically. I think that would have been always true. So So now if we go ahead and try this out, it should work and we should be good to go. Let's see how this works. Yep, there we go. We got workbench, slash craft, cool, slash fly, have it too. What else? What do I not have here? Slash GMC. Don't have it. So you can see it is successfully working. If we TPermissions here, we actually can't do that. TPermissions info, and you can see those are my permissions. It does not show my group's permissions, and actually want to change our method down here to be if to return equals this, or dot equals nothing, basically. Then we're gonna say we're gonna do this here, else otherwise it's going to be this, except a comma here, and that will make it format correctly. So now our formatting thing is working, not already working, but working. And let me add something to the help menu here. Group create group. And now we are good to go. And I can go ahead and do that. Makes it actually look how it's supposed to. And now for our final check. There we go. In our final else block, if they have not done a recognized subcommand, it will go ahead and do that. Perfect. We are now 100% finished with the groups section of our tutorial. We go ahead and type in the TPermissions info again. You can see it's nicely formatted. That didn't, I don't know. And then if we go ahead and actually, let me see here. Permissions. Yeah, we're just getting the permissions for that player. That's why I just show all the group ones. So there we go. That is successfully how to do groups, and we made our command system a lot better. I think that's about it. That's really it. It's done. Yeah. If we go ahead and say group add essentials dot game mode dot game mode to test dot creative, and if we reload, whoops, can't do that in here. Reload game mode creative. Oh, and you can see we got all our group things here. If we do GMS, do we have that? Yeah, we do. We have GMA, we have GMSP now. We have all these different things. But we do not have op. We do not have reload. We don't have restart. We have none of those commands. So you can see that is our tutorial here. So I hope you guys enjoyed. I know it was a lot of fun to follow this guy up. And we will be going back to, not regular, I would say, but back to concepts, single episode concepts in the next episode. So definitely leave your suggestions for what I should do next down below. And I will definitely go ahead and attempt as many of them as I can over the next few weeks that I still have off. So that has been it for this tutorial. I hope you guys enjoyed. Go ahead and have yourselves a nice, wonderful, beautiful day. Take care.